alcohol availability. Now, this is a very important topic because, let's face it, if there's no alcohol around, we don't really have any alcohol-related problems. So, in general, and as far as I know, this hasn't been disputed, the more alcohol is available, the more alcohol will be consumed. And the image below, this is considered one of the most remote bars in the world, up in Antarctica, of all places. So basically, where there's people, there's alcohol, and if there's alcohol, people are going to drink. And the more ways to get alcohol, the more people will drink as well. So if there's more retail outlets where you can buy alcohol, whether that's off-premise retail outlets such as liquor stores where you're buying the product to drink at home, or it's on-premise retail outlets like a bar, restaurant, nightclub where you drink the product there, the more alcohol is consumed. And the interesting part about this is that these findings are consistent regardless of country. These studies have been done in dozens of different countries, and they all come back with the same result. The greater density of alcohol outlets, the more alcohol is being consumed, both for men and women. Now, we can regulate alcohol availability and we can regulate outlet density. We do that in a variety of different ways. So let's go through all of these in order. So limiting sales. We here in the US, we tried to do this. Some countries actually do this. We can completely ban alcohol sales. We can put full prohibitions at the country level of alcohol sales. Now, prohibition did not last here in the United States for very long. It is still seen in some majority Muslim countries, although even those rules are starting to be weakened a little bit. For instance, purchasing of alcohol in a Muslim-majority country may be illegal for a resident of the country, but outsiders, Westerners, businessmen, non-Muslim individuals might be able to buy alcohol in those countries in certain venues. But there are prohibitions at the state or the provincial level in some countries, either currently or in past. I know India, I believe, has some provinces where they do, or states, excuse me, there are states in India that do actually have prohibitions on alcohol sales. We can also have partial prohibitions. So maybe a state or a country or municipality doesn't have a full prohibition over all different types of alcohol, but maybe they just prohibit distilled spirits. Or maybe they just prohibit spirits and wine, but they still allow beer to be sold. So there can be partial prohibitions as well. There's always these gray areas along a continuum of policies. So MLPA is the minimum legal purchase age. There's a few different acronyms to kind of say what this means, but we'll use MLPA. Most countries, but not all, restrict individuals from purchasing alcoholic beverages based on age. So essentially, you have to be a certain age or older in order to purchase alcohol. Of these countries, the age ranges from 15 to 21 years old, the highest being 21. I don't know of any countries where the MLPA is older than 21. But it is a little bit interesting. So the map at the bottom of this slide, this is for the age restrictions for on-premise locations. So bars, restaurants, nightclubs. This slide is age restrictions for off-premise locations, so liquor stores where you're buying something to drink it at home. There is a slight difference. Countries do not necessarily have the same legal purchases laws for on-premise locations or off-premise locations, which is something very interesting to keep in mind. We limit alcohol sales by simply banning sales to only certain people. And these certain people are people who are already intoxicated. They're already drunk. If someone is drunk and they're in a bar, most states and many countries will have a law saying you cannot serve them. It is illegal to serve someone who is visibly intoxicated. Some laws actually allow on and off-premise locations to ban sales to people who are habitual drinkers, who are alcoholics. But again, that's much more limited. And what this does is it's complementary to the liability laws. So if a bar owner, for instance, sells someone alcohol, they get drunk, and then they injure somebody else, the bar might be liable for that individual injuring someone else because the bar allowed that person to get drunk there. So by allowing them to ban sales to these people, it works in concert with these liability laws so that the bars have the power to protect themselves and enforce the programs and policies that we want them to. A big thing that we do is limiting when alcohol is sold, not where. We'll talk about where in a couple slides, but when alcohol is sold. So we have days and hour restrictions. You can't buy alcohol every hour of the day, every day of the week. Now, when there are day restrictions, we typically call these blue laws. And these restrictions are simply banning the sale of alcohol, or in some cases just liquor, on Sundays. So basically you ban alcohol when it coincides with a Christian religious service. There are also some day restrictions based on national holidays. More universally accepted, since a lot of states have gotten rid of their blue laws, are hour restrictions. So you can't buy alcohol during the morning hours. You can only, which would be 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can only buy alcohol from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m., so the afternoon, evening, and night. Now, it's very rare, we don't do this often, but we have the mechanism to directly restrict alcohol outlet density. And this would be using local zoning laws and local zoning regulations. So the zoning board in a city or a town or any municipality actually has quite a bit of power. They can say where houses are located, where different industries are located, where factories are, how close they are, and how many licenses to give out for each one of these different industries. So using these zoning regulations and using these zoning boards, we could cap the number of liquor licenses in a specific community. We can prohibit where these establishments are actually located, so they're not too near residential areas, they're not too near schools. And by doing this, we might be able to, at the very least, cap the number of alcohol outlets. We can theoretically reduce the amount of exposure to youth of these alcohol outlets. So let's say we restrict bars from being right next to grocery stores where they might go with their parents, or near parks where they might play after school or on weekends. In an ideal world, we can actually use these to slowly reduce the number of liquor licenses and slowly reduce the number of on and off premise alcohol establishments by not allowing the licenses to carry over once a place of business goes out of business and closes down. And finally, we'll talk about alcohol monopolies. So an alcohol monopoly is where the government controls everything. They control the production and sale of alcohol. Now, in modern day, government control of production is very, very rare. But retail monopolies, where a country or a state or province controls the sale of alcohol, is much more common. I'm not going to say it's the most common thing in the world, but it's certainly more common than control of production. These are typically restricted to off-premise outlets. You don't see a lot of government-run bars and nightclubs at the moment. And they really are more common to be partial monopolies. So you'll have state liquor stores selling distilled spirits and wine, but essentially beer, alcohol pops, hard cider can be sold everywhere else.